I don't know if they are allowed to enter the newsroom. I know SABC is one of the key points. Depending what information they will give us, I don't have that information that they've entered the newsroom. I don't. If they did, I'll have to find out, because the police, the soldiers, as they operate in these particular places, they operate under the guidance of the police. Maybe the police can report to me why they would come to the newsroom if indeed they did.
And that's the Police Minister Bheki Cele there, saying that he is unaware of the fact that members of the SANDF were reported seen inside the newsroom. He was speaking there in Lamontville in Durban earlier on. So earlier on, the SABC confirming that members of the South African National Defence Force have been deployed at its headquarters in Auckland Park. The public broadcaster said the move was made to protect his premises and staff in light of the recent unrest in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. The army was deployed to several national key points across the country during the violence and rampant looting. We speak about this now with Martin Yui, who is a senior researcher at the Institute of Security Studies. Mr. Yui, thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just first off get your thoughts on the deployment of the SANDF to the SABC and this whole furore that we've now seen of SABC management first saying they didn't know that there were members of the SANDF at SABC buildings, to now saying, well, yes, they are, but we don't know that they are indeed in the newsroom, even though news staff have reported as such.
No, thank you very much. Let me also say good evening to all your viewers. I think, look, this is an interesting story. The facts are not as clear as they should. But let me respond to what I heard the police minister saying. What I believe is that, there are certainly SNDF forces around, which I think it's due to a reasonable threat that I'm sure they have. But I think let's talk about the nature of how do you protect critical infrastructure. Is it just by sending in the military? I think that's one way. If the threat is very visible, it is very imminent, and we know that we need to protect the facility physically. That's when we have the police or we have the military around. But the protection of critical infrastructure starts with the staff. It starts with the workers, those who occupy the building, because we expect them to do certain things to protect themselves first and the facility also. So what the military and the police then do is to complement those actions that are supposed to be taken by the staff of the building. And the staff should be fully aware that there are military officers or there are police officers surrounding the building, because they will know in the case of emergency where to run to and who to run to. And of course, to also expect that they could run into a military officer. So, but again, as I said, that the story, the facts about this story are not quite clear, and therefore we can't really comment more in terms of the strategy being used.
Let me zero in on what you're saying. The facts are yet to be established. So those who have reported members of the SANDF in the newsroom did report that they were indeed seen with rifles. They interacted with them, and to suggest that there may have been anything sinister, that would not necessarily have come through. But then it goes to the optics. You are speaking about complementary action to make staff members feel safe, particularly in a strategic place such as a newsroom, which of course is responsible for disseminating information out to the public. So the presence of rifles by members of the SANDF in a newsroom, the optics thereof may not necessarily create that sense of freedom. And I think this is where we are. So what are your thoughts about this? And also tell us about the laws governing the deployment then of members of the army to a national key point.
Let's discuss first the issue of military officers carrying weapons visibly in a newsroom. Look, it gives the impression of a war scene. Because it's only during the war scene where you can have such a situation. Again, as I'm saying, that we don't know the fact that they receive, the kind of information that they receive. If the threat was one that could seriously harm the building, if, say, for example, the perpetrators or assume or alleged perpetrators were people that were planning to come and burn the building or run into the building and start shooting at staff in the building, I think there is a justifiable reason to have military officers with their weapons standing around where you can easily see them, because that act itself can disrupt the news reporting, can make the reporters or the staff feel a little bit unsafe. Because when you see the military officers all around you, you feel like there is war. You feel like someone is coming to attack you, because people, will react differently, or even sometimes they will react in a more drastic manner that could really disrupt the working methods of the environment and so on. So, but again, why I'm really reluctant to speak with certainty is just the fact that we don't know the information that they receive. If they receive tangible information and reliable information that the alleged perpetrators were indeed coming in to burn the building, to shoot at staff, and so on and so forth, those kind of drastic measures could be justified. That's the point I'm trying to say. But in the normal working of things, if we receive a threat that a building is going to be attacked, the first thing is that you don't want to alarm the staff of the building, but you need to tell them we've received news or we've received information which could lead to an attack of the building, but we are taking all the measures. All we want you to do is to take certain measures as staff in order to protect yourself, to be highly alert to anything around you, and so on and so forth. And then the military can stay outside, even not so close to the vicinity, but in a very watchful way to make sure that whatever will enter the building is well monitored, even sometimes scanned, and so on and so forth, to make sure that the threat does not come in.
So while one doesn't want to belabor, what has been out there, the speculation, but it also is about the weight of who says what. And I'm referring here to the Transport Minister Bheki Cele making a statement in a tweet that we know, to quote him, that the rebels wanted to take over the broadcaster. Or let me see if we have that tweet to put it up once again, just to make sure that the wording is correct, that I'm not misquoting it. But it carries a lot of weight to be hearing a minister say that. And then you then have the Minister of Police then saying that he doesn't know if they're supposed to be there, but the question then is, where would the police be, under whose guidance they are deployed here at the SABC? So what are we to make of all of this?
That's exactly the point I'm saying here, that the facts are very fuzzy and it makes it very difficult to analyze the situation. But I can tell you that critical infrastructure today in South Africa are facing, I would say, an elevated threat, given what we witnessed in July and given certain development relating to the country, especially the deployment of South African forces in Mozambique. We know they are there to confront terrorists, and we know that this is not any ordinary terrorists. These are terrorists with international presence, meaning that they could also have hopes, to strike in South Africa, because this is now war. So I will agree that critical infrastructure, and this is not just for SABC. I think this should be with all critical infrastructure, which come in various forms. We have airport, we have ports. We saw what happened to KZN a couple of weeks back, where the whole system was run down because of a cyber attack. All of those added, they show that, there is higher risk. There are higher risks to critical infrastructure in this country, and therefore there is need for additional protection. But how you protect the critical infrastructure, I think, is the question that we need to be discussing, because having military is one way, but I can tell you that when the information is highly reliable and we know the type of threat that this might cause even death or some serious injuries to staff, then we take those kind of measures where the police or the soldiers are there to protect individuals and access to the building.
Martin Nui, thank you so much for your time and insights. He's a senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies.